Good snowy afternoon to you. Throughout the growing community of Sugar Hill, there are small family cemeteries located throughout the town, like this three grave spot behind me. It's on the corner of a major road, of Riverside Road and Swanee Dam Road. There's a Kroger to my right, a State Farm Insurance Agency behind me, and a church in front of me. So we're going to talk about one local family cemetery, but I'm going to kind of dance around, jump around different local spots. So just come with me on this adventure. Here at the Kyle Benson Cemetery, mere feet from Sycamore Road right here behind me is the graves of a guy with the last name Benson, who was at the Battle of Yorktown during the American Revolution, and a guy with the last name Kyle, who escorted the Cherokee on the Trail of Tears in 1838. So let's go ahead and go to our next location. All right, another Revolutionary War hero and another family grave. Isaac Horton is crazily in a subdivision. And then we're here at my last stop to talk about the Calaway Family Cemetery. So I remember I'm a teacher at Lanier Middle School, and this cemetery is on the grounds of Lanier Middle School. And I remember kids back my first couple of years teaching here, like, hey, there's a cemetery here. So we're going to go ahead and explore and talk about the history of the Calaway Family Cemetery and the backstory of the community that grew in and around here. So I'm Jim Wright with George on Location. So here we go. Welcome to Georgia on Location, the video series where one Georgia Studies teacher, me, hits the road in search of the stories behind the stories. Join us as we travel across the Peach State, uncovering hidden history, fascinating artifacts, and unforgettable tales from every corner of Georgia. Each episode brings you along for the adventure as we explore the places, people, and events that shaped our state. These are the kinds of discoveries you won't find in a textbook, the real-world connections that bring 8th grade Georgia history to life. So pack your curiosity, buckle up, and get ready to learn something new. Let's go! Georgia on Location at Calaway Cemetery. Tucked quietly among the trees near Lanier Middle School in Sugar Hill, Georgia, lies a small but powerful reminder of the area's earliest settlers, the Calaway Family Cemetery. This historic cemetery sits on a wooded rise near what was once White Oak, the White Oak community, and the site of a one-room schoolhouse that served local children in the early 1900s. And that's the reason why we have White Oak Elementary today, to kind of harken back to those old days. Though thousands of cars pass nearby each day on the way to Buford Dam and Lake Lanier, the cemetery often goes unnoticed. The Calaway Cemetery contains only two marked graves, those of John Calaway and his wife Elizabeth. So you're seeing John Calaway's grave right there, and the snow covering Elizabeth Calaway grave is right there. John was born in Georgia in 1804, and Elizabeth was born in North Carolina in 1808. The two were married around 1824 and settled in this part of the Gwinnett County during the early days of the 1830s, when this region was still considered frontier land. And in many respects, this land that we're on is the border of Cherokee and Muskogee Creek land. Life for the Calaways would have been difficult. The land along the Chattahoochee River was largely undeveloped, and the early settlers relied on farming, community ties, and faith to survive. John Calaway was an early member of Island Ford Baptist Church that you see in front of you, one of the first churches in the area. Organized in 1833 near a river crossing used by settlers. So as we're walking through the graveyard, up over the hill right here on the left is where that old wagon trail used to be. I made a video about it. You can go ahead and access that. It's called the East Bowman Islands Trail. But back in the day, it was the Island Ford Trail, and you would take a take the trail down to the river, and you would ford the river near what was called Bowman's Island. So there you got the name Island Ford Trail. I will post a link of that video in the description so you could access that. Really cool trail, historic. It's got old homestead foundations there. It's got wells that go down 30 feet into the ground. But the cool thing about this cemetery is that you got old graves from the early members of the church, former Confederates, and then recently discovered there are graves of former slaves who once attended the church here. And then, as you can see, here are the church graves, or the former enslaved graves right here with the crosses. These were recently found using LiDAR technology. So really cool that you can kind of see the history that's here. There's more that are still being found. The cemetery itself reflects both simplicity and care. The graves are enclosed by a low brick wall, and remnants of an iron hinges suggest that an ornate wrought iron gate once stood at the entrance before storm damage claimed it. I think it's actually the remains of that is actually on top of the wall. There's some metal there. Today the site is protected by the Georgia Piedmont Land Trust to preserve its historical value. Though small in size, the Calaway Cemetery tells a much larger story, one of perseverance, faith, and the early roots of the Sugar Hill community. It stands today as a quiet reminder that local history often lives just beyond the places we pass every day. Let's end with a quote that is on John's grave. John's epitaph reads, "The last time he ever went to where he had selected to be buried, and the wall built around the place, he laid his hands on the wall and said, 'Here is my sweet home till the day of judgment,' then went away." This is Jim Wright with Georgia on Location. Have a wonderful day.